Alright, so here's something that I want to bring up about what people say to make the tech sound torture speaker shit stuff. So, for like the last 10 years in this town and across most of the Northwest, this issue has been around for a very long time now. Essentially, there was a centralized list of everything that anybody ever claims on how to make that stuff not happen. And so some people claim that being in front of a camera or something, that doesn't work. And then there's a military guy around here that I found. He wanted that shit to not happen. He started going through, and that doesn't work, and that doesn't work, and that doesn't work, and then other people in the Northwest noticed him, right? And then they noticed that he was working through all the things that he could find. And then other hackers and dumb tech nerds and rock stars, they had other stuff that wasn't on his list. And then essentially that is where they had gotten other realms of the world and what they claimed. They crossed off theirs. None of those were. And then essentially, when I was researching while homeless, there was some stuff that I found that wasn't on their list, and none of that stuff worked. And then there was like some women and prostitutes and stuff, and the reason they don't like suck dicks anymore is because that doesn't make any difference, basically. And then these people probably, in this situation, some people went and did sick fuck camps, and those people probably end up in prison, but yep, that doesn't work. And other people went and gangbangs doesn't work, and lesson doesn't work, and all these lists, just a whole huge list of people that have verified what people claim, and that stuff not working. And so the centralized database essentially attempts to find what everybody ends up figuring out after a while is that no incentive. It's essentially meant to make those people be committing suicide. Basically. And so, capital offense sound torture, attempted suicide, and then they do it in an organized group. Essentially 3 felonies. Essentially the concise worldwide law, like in China, what they're doing would mean life in prison. And that it's kind of geared around an accepted free man idea for it to be a more worldwide, like, generic. So essentially this problem plagues all over Russia, or all over China. I mean, it's all over China. It is. Same shit. Same shit. And so they probably would have stumbled across the military guy and these rock stars and shit and hackers up here in the Northwest testing all this stuff. then essentially they probably would have been able to find people that essentially like would have done theoretically the same things, and then they would have started a centralized see what it comes down to is that sociopaths they don't actually have any incentive. What they're trying to do, they're in a satanic S&M, and that they chose pedophilia S&M, and that has them essentially for their method of murder doing torture into suicide. And so that's essentially where they don't necessarily like, whatever the reasons, those people basically don't ever stop until the person commits suicide. And that's all it is. They're stupid. Anything they say doesn't mean shit. Anything that their methods, encryptions, and fucking pedoey, fucking weird, fucking Mormons and their weird suggestion shit and food and shit doesn't make one fucking difference. All those people that have all those explanations that then start accessing those profiles, those people are merely just coming up with weird psychops to justify accessing it and to be torturing the person into suicide. That is it. That is what damn near 10 years worth of massive grouped effort research basically has like produced. And so in China, they're communists. The Chinese would have seen this stuff in the Northwest. They would have instantly just found everybody that pretty much tried all the similar ideas and shit. And then those people would have said, nope, doesn't work. And then China would have just gone around and killed all of them. Basically. And so, that's pretty much where, I mean, this is kind of where it's like, a lot of the things up here in the Northwest is basically sociopaths that are busy torturing and speakers. There's no way. There's no trustworthiness. You can't really believe them. Whatever they say, they're torturing somebody into suicide. And so they don't have any credibility in anything that they fucking say. Right? The whole idea is that people that are willing to torture people in these speakers, they are merely just sociopaths. See, there's no reason to do what they're doing. And that anything that comes out of their mouth, any idea that comes that you come across with why they're doing it to torture somebody into suicide. And that's it. So, oh yeah, they'll have lots of excuses and shit, but that won't mean anything. The willingness to torture people in weird psychotic ways is what basically shows that if you know what they're doing for real, then you'll know that it's just a form of torture. Even in weird low volume ways, See, they'll have all these Mormons that will, like, literally, like, they'll hope that their sound torture doesn't get noticed or something by their victim. And that's it. That's it. And that then their, like, weird helping method is to basically be doing that in a way that they hope that the targeted victim won't notice. But what they're doing is basically, after a certain amount of time, they start to be more obvious and they just start doing what the blatant psycho ass psycho-y fucking people do eventually. Every single one of those Mormons do that. ART idea, just torturing somebody into suicide. That's all they're doing. Nowadays, they attempt to be so subversive, hoping that their victim won't notice, and then they, like, if they don't seem like they notice, then they reach out, where they acknowledge being in your speaker or something like that. And that is where they view, that's what their fix is, to be the same problem. And so, yeah, and that they're just sitting there filling the spot of what everybody else does in it, which is to torture somebody into suicide. Every single one of them literally has. This is why I brought up the internment camps. Because essentially in China, these things, the Chinese have solutions. They really do. They, it depends, like, if they were being lesser about that stuff, then they essentially just throw them into an internment camp, basically. And that then, if they've been doing it like a psycho for too long, then they just kill them. And so, this is essentially what the solution is. Because China has been able to effectively govern and police this problem. And so currently, in Satan, somebody has found a solution for a government. Basically. And so, I wouldn't discount that because, the reality is that they're attempting to govern and to police that stuff also. And it doesn't really matter if they're communists, they're just attempting to get people not to fucking do it. And that is, like, where whatever they're doing is being effective. And that then essentially, probably what's, they're able to do things pretty easily, nobody, they don't have to go through Freeman civil rights and shit like that, but that essentially you can pull from a reality of what it is, and that they analyze it, the United States, because these people that do this, these people in the Northwest, they also do that stuff at people in China. And that essentially they have intelligence teams that are attempting to figure out what America can do to be getting rid of those people. See, the issue is with their Russian intelligence, dark web that they're using that makes it difficult to pull out the information. But theoretically, there's a potential for some bilateral talks, potentially for the Chinese ambassador to be addressing this stuff out of their mouth, face to face, with essentially the premier or whatever, and that you might be able to get that guy to be letting his People's Liberation Army be handing over that information to be prosecuting those people. And so currently their solution for America is just to kill everybody because you can't get the evidence to throw them into an internment camp. Okay? And so that's essentially what they're... I mean, they know how to analyze it, what America can do under their laws, and that they know that it's difficult to get the evidence out. Okay? And so currently, Satan-USA, has the solution of just killing them all because there's no flow ability of evidence to be using America's laws to be throwing them in jail. See, the moment the United States is able to get that type of information, then the Satan-USA would change to essentially, they could potentially throw everybody in prison, but certain ones that have kind of gone a little too far, they know that in America, if you defect and become a Russian double agent or a Nazi double agent or a terrorist double agent, that you're supposed to be killed on sight. And that they know that. And so that's kind of where people technically haven't gone far enough. And those people are supposed to go to prison. And that then these other people are supposed to be killed under America's laws for being defection and double agents and shit. They won't. They don't necessarily. See, China's been plagued by years and years of the American double agent. See, they kind of have like they have a theoretical Lee Harvey Oswald idea in their KGB, but they've been plagued for a long time with those people not being beneficial to their intelligence method. So they don't normally like to build double agents. They like to build Manchurian candidates, which are people that they would want to be president, that would be favorable or not necessarily biased, but would build, money in their country, basically. I mean that's theoretically they don't do the double agent stuff. It's like double agent is like Lee Harvey Oswald, Russian KGB, and they do like Manchurian candidate, which is somebody that they would respect, and then they would also help, and then they would be allied with in ways. That's like the difference. So it's like the Russians built double agents, And then the Chinese like to do a Manchurian candidate. Basically. And it's not one and the same at all. Not at all. It's like theoretically the Manchurian candidate is the person that if that person was president, essentially the Chinese communists would ally with America instead of North Korea or Venezuela or Russia. And that's basically, that's the only like clandestine inclusion when it comes to the ideas of double agent idea kind of stuff. It's like theoretically the Manchurian will understand all things about China. Supposed to be a man. And you're not supposed to pedal bang. And you're not supposed to blackmail. And then you're supposed to eat pork. And that you're supposed to be down with Buddha. And that then, in their world, the Manchurian candidate idea is also based around coalescing a missing alliance, so to speak, in the religion world of Christianity and Buddhism. And you see that is what they look for. Oh, and then in America, it's like labor's unions and shit. And then, yeah. And then essentially it has to be somebody that the Nazis won't kill. Okay? And so, theoretically, there exist human beings in the world that the Nazis aren't allowed to kill. And that is essentially, that's part of it. It's like, I mean, theoretically, Don and Joe, and they can theoretically have like one of those contracts from the Nazi party on assassinations and shit. But there theoretically exist people in the world that they're not allowed to do an assassination contract against. And that then those people also, if Putin issues one, then the Nazis have to basically take all the money and then they have to kill Putin. Basically. And so that's like what nullifies the Russian ability. And then they basically have to be people that come from Hong Kong. Not they have to come from the British people. See, the idea of Manchurian Candidate was about Hong Kong in lots of ways. And it was about building an acceptable world leader that would take Hong Kong and would turn the rest of China into Hong Kong. And then that is like basically so that is like where essentially it's very difficult to get the Chinese to ever help with anything. They don't like being people's bitch. Right? It's part of their weird, well, it's not weird, it's just part of their Chinese culture is to not be somebody's fucking bitch. It stems from the Persian and Mongolian and it does, it really does. Those people, that culture, the oldest society and culture in the world, they don't like being nobody's bitch. And so to get them to help, see, when you give America a bunch of money, then that's where they get a bunch of Satan money. And then they're being your bitch. See, when you're making people your bitch, that's kind of what it means, okay? And it's like the person shoving money at you is like the person getting the money is the bitch. That's how their whole world is like that. And it's like this is the Asian culture is like this. This is why they give gifts and shit, and it's like this is kind of like when you show up at some potential investor or something, and you hand them a bunch of sake or whiskey or something or scotch, and you're supposed to make. You see if like Apple shows up in Japan for like maybe some like rare earth mining company or something, where they show up with the most perfect fucking salmon and the most perfect fucking scotch or something, and maybe a bunch of like prototype super advanced iPads or something like that. Then it's like that's Apple going, bitch. And that is where you're supposed to make your bitch gifts so enticing that they become your bitch. Basically. And so China's similar, okay? So the whole idea is that whatever China came with their $750 billion like influx of money into America in the past, see, they would have made their enticement so alluring for the needs of America that's what a master does to their bitch. And so, pretty much, you can understand a lot of things are very simple. See, in the world of Mahjong, all blocks are very simple. And that's where that Japanese custom of giving gifts and stuff, that stuff, the Chinese don't like it. They don't ever tell nobody. But if you go up to a Chinese company with enticing gifts and stuff, if you figure out what they would actually want, then you're supposed to make it real enticing. Because then they end up having to be your bitch in the negotiations. The business negotiation. Then you'll basically get what you want. See, there's corporations, the Japanese don't like people knowing this stuff. See, if you fly the world's most perfect tuna fish out of the Oregon hippie granola state, the one that has that nice veneer of a beautiful orange across it, if you literally grab it and then fly it within like 2 hours to Japan, and then you get a bunch of illegal sturgeons with eggs in their belly, See, that's the kind of stuff that then in a negotiation, whoever the Japanese company is, that type of shit is so fucking enticing to those people that they'll literally just agree over that type of stuff. If they accept your gift, if your gift is considered better than theirs, then you basically won the negotiation. They don't like people knowing that.